Hello, so today we are going to look at lesson 112A. And so anytime you see an A or a letter after the lesson, that means it's a multi-day lesson. So A is the first day of lesson 112. And this is entitled Using a Graphing Calculator to Explore a Function. So a lot of what we're going to do today is exploring how to use a graphing calculator or Desmos. Okay, so we have a couple objectives today. And between today and our next lesson. It's the second part of this lesson. So the first objective is students will draw complete graphs of functions and identify possible inputs, outputs, and key points for describing those graphs. Okay, so you're gonna be looking at some graphs you've never seen before and trying to draw them and describe what we can of those. And then the second objective is students will use a graphing calculator and will develop presentation skills. So the goal is on Monday, you're going to create a Google slide deck that illustrates things you've learned in the class, this lesson. Okay, the Common Core State Standards, we are looking at F1F.4. It says, for a function that models a relationship between two quantities, interpret key features of graphs and tables in terms of the quantities, and sketch graphs showing key features given a verbal description of the relationship. So we're going to really work on the first part of that standard. And the mathematical practices we are going to be using today are make sense of problems, persevere in solving them, construct viable arguments, and critique the reasoning of others, model with mathematics, and use appropriate tools strategically. So a lot of things we're going to be looking at today. Okay, so here's the introduction. It says, in Algebra 1, you learn that multiple representations such as situations, tables, graphs, and equations and their interconnections are useful for learning about functions. A graphing calculator can be a very useful tool for generating different expression representations quickly. Today you will use this tool to explore a function. You describe your function completely to the class. So that's our introduction and our goal for the next 2 days. Okay, so the problem we're going to look at today is problem 110. And so here is the problem. It says, you and your table mates, says in the book team, table mates will use graphing calculators in Desmos. So this is a link to Desmos if you are looking at the slideshow on Google Classroom to learn about one of the following functions below. There is an E tool in our textbook, and I put a link here. It'll also be on Google Classroom for you to look at this at a later date. So each one of you guys is going to be given one of these 8 functions to look at. So you'll be assigned a function in class. So um, if if you're not here today while we're doing this, and you're watching this online, when you get to school, you might want to figure out who you're sitting with, and then you're going to want to do this. Okay, figure out which function you want to try to do this today on your own. Okay. Okay, so your task is with your function you've been assigned, you're going to describe your group's function in as much detail as possible. You can use your graphing calculator and Desmos to help you generate a table and a complete graph of your function. That's your goal. So remember that drawing a complete graph means this from yesterday's assignment that you can use graph paper, scale your axes appropriately, label key points, and plot points accurately. So a lot of the graphing we're going to do today is on Desmos. So it says as you work, keep your graphing calculators or computers in the middle of your workspace so you can compare your screens and all members can see and discuss the results. Be sure to record what you learn as you explore your function as a group because you'll be preparing a Google slide deck about your function for your class that will be posted on the class Google Classroom page for reference. So you're going to be posting something. The slide deck will be worth some in-class points during the next lesson, okay? So this page here This will not be on Google Classroom. This is on the slide deck. These are a bunch of YouTube videos I found that will help you, that you can use as an added resource for doing some stuff with the TI-83 calculators and Desmos. I also will be posting a video on just Desmos to walk you through some things particular to this lesson. So use these references as you see fit. Okay. Now, part of this lesson, there is a math note. So we're going to look at the math notes really quickly here, okay? Math notes are our linear equations. So this is, I kind of retyped out what it said, but we can go through each bullet point individually because there's things on here you have to know moving forward. So anything in bold is a vocabulary term you have to know. Okay, I would suggest compiling a list or a Google Doc somewhere where you write down all these definitions and what lesson they came from. So it says a linear equation is an equation that forms a line when it is graphed. This type of equation may be written in several different forms. Although these forms look different, they are equivalent. That is, their graphs are all the same. So there are really, just to start off with, we'll add a third one later, there are two forms of a line that we want to be able to work with easily. And we did use some of these in our last lesson. The first form is called standard form. So it is an equation in the form ax plus by equals c. And an example of in the line in that form would be, 6x, this should be a y, typo. So 3y equals negative 18. The second form, which we're mostly used to, is called slope-intercept form. That's an equation in y equals mx plus b form. I keep making some typos here, so that's just a form, such as y equals 2x minus 6. And we can find the slope, known as a growth factor, and a y-intercept of a line very quickly in y equals mx plus b form. So in the equation y equals 2x minus 6, this is the m, 2 is the m is the slope. So that is the slope. And negative 6, that is b in the form, and b is always the y-intercept. So another thing I want to look at really quickly is this idea of a slope triangle. So looking over here, so you kind of see they made a triangle here. Whoops. So they made a triangle. I'm trying to darken it a little bit here. Here's my triangle, so right triangle. And so this relates to the change in x, delta x. This is the change in y. So anytime I can make a right triangle, I want to find delta x and delta y because slope is equivalent to delta y over delta x. So that should be apparent in a line if I graph it in any form, especially slope-intercept form. So these are things we should be able to do by now, and this should not be brand new to us, but things that I expect you to know moving forward, and that will come up in the homework. So please refer to these at a later date. Okay, your job tonight is to complete problems 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, and 118 in class. There will be a video posted on Google Classroom where I walk through all the answers. And when you are finished, you will either upload photographs or scans of your work for the problems assignment to Google Classroom, or you'll physically turn in your work to class by next Monday for the credit. All right, so hopefully if you have any questions, ask me or someone next to you or in the class that you know, but we should be able to do this. Want to get as far as you can on your functions today, try to complete the task, and then next class period, we will be making a slideshow about our understanding of that function. All right, hopefully this was helpful. See you next class.